Hi my dear students, welcome to my biology class. We have studied that the body of complex animals is made up of four major types of tissues such as epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscular tissues and neural tissue. We have learned about the characteristic features and functions of epithelial tissues in the previous class. Today we are going to learn about another animal tissue, that is connective tissue. Can you guess the function of connective tissue? It connects or binds various tissues or organs of the body. That is the major nature of the connective tissue. So first point, it binds or connects or holds various body parts. It gives structural framework to the body. Structural framework means it gives the structure to the body, a definite structure to the body. That's the meaning of structural framework. It performs a lot of functions like storage of fat, then defense, then transport of various materials, then tissue repair, etc. Tissue repair means when the tissues are damaged, the new cells or tissues are formed with the help of certain kind of connective tissue. So these are the major functions of connective tissues in animal's body. Now let's study the components of connective tissue and the classification of connective tissue. The connective tissue has three components such as cells, fibers and matrix. The cells are of three types. Those are macrophages, mast cells and fibroblasts. The fibers are protein fibers. These are of two types. Those are collagen fibers and elastin fibers. Collagen and elastin fibers. The matrix either solid, semi-solid or liquid. Okay, the cells secrete the modified polysaccharide forms and are formed as the ground matrix in between the cells of the connective tissue. The fibers like collagen and elastin provide strength, flexibility and elasticity to the tissues. The matrix in which the cells and fibers are arranged in the connective tissue or embedded in the ground matrix of the connective tissue. Now let's study the classification of connective tissue. Based on the presence or absence of cells, nature of fibers or presence or absence of certain kind of fibers and the nature of matrix, connective tissue is of three kinds. Those are loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. The loose connective tissue is of two types. Those are areolar tissues and adipose tissue. Areolar, connective tissue and adipose connective tissue. The dense connective tissue is of two types. Those are regular dense connective tissue and irregular dense connective tissue. Regular and irregular. Okay, the regular connective tissue is of two types. Those are tendon and ligament. Tendon and ligament. Okay, the specialized connective tissues are three types. Those are bone, cartilage and blood. This is the classification of connective tissue. Now let's study in detail about each category of connective tissue, such as loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. First of all, let's learn about loose connective tissue. In this type of connective tissue, the cells and fibers are loosely arranged in the matrix. Okay, the first point, cells and fibers are loosely arranged. The matrix is semi-fluid in nature. So, arranged in semi-fluid ground matrix. The loose connective tissue is of two types. Those are areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Now let's study the differences between areolar tissue and adipose tissue. The similarity, both are loose connective tissue. They consist of cells and fibers which are loosely arranged in the semi-fluid ground matrix. The areolar tissue is found under the skin. First point, found under the skin. It fills the gap between the blood vessels and muscles, and also it forms as a support for the epithelium, support framework for the epithelium. Okay. The next, adipose tissue, it is also found under the skin, but it has a special function. It is specialized for the storage of excess fat in the specialized cells called the adipocytes. Then here I can write found under the skin but stores fat in adipocytes. Adipocytes are the specialized cells that store the excess fat. The areolar tissue consists of the three types of cells, such as mast cells, fibroblasts and macrophages, and two types of fibers such as collagen and elastin. Okay, in the adipose tissue, the excess nutrients are converted into fat because they are not used immediately after the formation. They are stored for the future purpose. So these are the differences between areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Now you can observe the diagrammatic structure of the areolar tissue and adipose tissue and their components. Next is the dense connective tissue. It is of two types. Those are regular dense connective tissue and irregular dense connective tissue. In the dense connective tissue, the fibers and fibroblasts are arranged in dense matrix. That's why this connective tissue is known as a dense connective tissue. Dense or regular means the fibers and fibroblasts are arranged in a specific orientation. The fibroblasts are arranged in rows in between parallel bundles of fibers. That's why it is known as a regular dense connective tissue. In the irregular dense connective tissue, the fibers and fibroblasts are not regularly arranged. These are scattered in the matrix. Fibers and fibroblasts are arranged irregularly. Okay, next let's study the classification of the dense regular connective tissue. It is of two types. Those are tendon and ligament. Tendon and ligament. Okay, here the tendon connects bone to muscle. So tendon is the bone to muscle connection. Means it connects the bone with the muscle, while the ligament connects bone to bone. Okay, the tendon consists of fibroblast and collagen fibers. And it has great strength and limited flexibility. Limited flexibility. While the ligaments consist of both collagen and some elastin fibers. Both collagen and some elastin. So it is elastic in nature. It has considerable strength. So these are the differences between tendon and ligament. Both are regular dense connective tissue. The irregular dense connective tissue is composed of collagen fibers, fibroblasts and matrix. As these are oriented irregularly in the matrix, such type of dense connective tissue is called the irregular connective tissue. It is usually found in the skin. Found in the skin. Did you get the difference between regular and irregular dense connective tissue? Next, we are going to learn about specialized connective tissue. Those are blood, bone and cartilage. The three types of specialized connective tissues are, first one blood, then bone and third cartilage. Okay, first of all, blood. Blood is a fluid connective tissue. Fluid connective tissue, because the fluid part of the blood is called the plasma. It has a fluid part, plasma. The major content of the plasma is water. Plasma, the fluid part, in which three types of specialized cells are suspended. Those cells are RBC, WBC and platelets. three cells such as RBC, red blood cells or erythrocytes. Then WBC, white blood cells or leukocytes. Then platelets or thrombocytes. Thrombocytes. Then RBC is red in color and it carries hemoglobin, the red respiratory pigment, which transports oxygen and carbon dioxide in the complex animal's body. The WBC, the leukocytes involved in the immune response of the body or the defense of the body. The platelets or thrombocytes are mainly involved in the clotting of blood in most complex animals' body. Next, let's study the features of the bone and the cartilage. Then let us compare them and study the differences too. First of all, bone. The bone has a hard or rigid, then non-flexible matrix. First point, hard or rigid, then non-flexible matrix, while the cartilage has semi-rigid and pliable or flexible matrix. Semi-rigid, pliable or flexible matrix, in which the collagen fibers are embedded. So both consist of collagen fibers. Okay, the bone consists of mainly two salts such as calcium and phosphorus. These are embedded in the matrix. Calcium, salts and phosphorus. Okay, it has specialized cell. The bone cells are known as osteocytes. Here the matrix of the cartilage consists of sugar and protein. Sugar and protein. It has a solid protein in the matrix which is called chondrin. Solid protein called chondrin. The cells of cartilage are known as chondrocytes. Chondrocytes. Okay, the bone is very hard, which has great strength, while the cartilage is not so hard. It is semi-rigid and flexible and not so hard. Osteocytes are embedded in the concentric rings called lamellae. Osteocytes, these are embedded in the matrix. These are embedded in the concentric layers. Concentric layers called what? Lamellae. Okay. While the cartilaginous cells, the chondrocytes, these are present in the specific fluid-filled sacs called lacunae. 2 or 3 chondrocytes are present in the fluid-filled lacunae in the matrix. Chondrocytes are present in the lacunae. Okay. The cartilage is found in the nose tip, the outer ear joints, in between the bones of the vertebral column. In the case of vertebrates, the cartilage is present during the embryonic stage it will be replaced as vertebral column when they attain adult stage. Then bone, it gives structural framework to the body, it supports and gives strength to the body, it protects many vital or internal organs of the body, and as it is attached with the muscles, especially the skeletal muscles, the bones involve in movement. That means the bones help in movement. Then the bone consists of bone marrow, which is the birthplace of many blood cells. So it is one of the most important connective tissues of the body. All connective tissues are very important. Each one has specific function and they perform various functions and they coordinate various functions, and thus they protect us, they help in tissue repair, they bind various tissues and organs, they transport various materials, and thus overall the connective tissue performs the major roles in the human body or in complex animals' body. So today we have learned about connective tissue, its classification, characteristic features and their functions. I hope you have understood the topic well. With this, I conclude my session. Thank you and have nice moments.